Women were taught that success means doing more. But what if the life you actually want requires you to do less and receive more? We're going to talk about it in today's episode. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Secret Formula of Femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Monteiro, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Secret Formula of Femininity. I'm your host and guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence, Dr. Nicole. And today I want to talk about the shift that is happening. And if you've been feeling it, you are not imagining it. For a long time, for so many of us, success looked like do more, push harder, be independent, be strong, be ambitious, don't need anything. And so many women were able to master that, build careers, achieve goals, be the one that everyone counts on, have that strong exterior. But I've been noticing something, not just in myself, but in so many women, in my work, in my life, in my conversations with women. More and more women are saying, I don't want to live like that anymore. It's not for me anymore. I'm burnt out. I'm exhausted. And it's not because they're incapable. It's because they're exhausted from being overly capable, I might say. What if the way you were taught to succeed is actually the thing that's disconnecting you from your fulfillment? That's why today I want to talk about what I call the season of yes. This is a season where women are no longer saying yes to responsibilities, but saying yes to softness, saying yes to rest, what they desire, to being able to receive, and saying yes to what they're doing being more in alignment with what they want deep down inside for themselves. And femininity, true femininity, is becoming the new formula for success. Let's start with this because the model that so many women, especially when they get to a certain stage in life, were taught came from a very specific place. Historically, in terms of the modern lifestyle, success has been defined by some very key things: productivity, output, endurance, and independence. And a lot of it from the Western modern worldview comes from the idea of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, being ruggedly independent and individualistic. And those things aren't all bad, but they certainly aren't all good. Context matters, right? But for women, this has a particular effect because so much of this is not only rooted in individualism, but what we call masculine coded traits. Things like doing, achieving, and pushing. And as women fought for their equality, the idea of having more space for feminine traits wasn't taken into account. So it was like women needed to do more of these masculine coded traits or behaviors. Women entered systems that were built on these values. And like women do, we adapted. But what we're seeing in anecdotal examples as well as through the research is that this level of high performance, high achievement can be detrimental to women's well-being. There's research showing that women who constantly operate in this high performance, high demand mode or in environments that require that, when they don't have recovery, they experience higher cortisol levels, which we know can be dangerous when chronic. That means you're in a high chronic level of stress. It can lead to increased burnout or chronic burnout, emotional exhaustion, and health problems, persistent health problems. And here's the key: the body doesn't care how successful you look on the outside or all of the accolades that you're getting. The body just responds to what's happening on the inside. And it's actually really good at adapting to stress. But what happens is it adapts to unhealthy environments by making you unhealthy. If you're constantly in stress mode, your body, though, is eventually going to push back. It's going to protect its resources and it's going to take away from the things that contribute to your overall well-being and keep you in survival mode. You can be successful on paper, but disconnected in your body. I've seen it time and time again, and I experienced it myself. So let's talk about what femininity actually means, because I really need to clarify some things. When I say femininity, I'm not talking about being passive, because this is the pushback. People are like, no, we fought too hard. We're not going to sit here and be passive. I'm not talking about shrinking yourself, because again, research shows that when you're shrinking yourself, that also creates a level of stress that's not healthy. And I'm definitely not talking about an unhealthy level of dependence. I think you have heard me talk a lot about interdependence and how that is actually our healthiest state. Femininity at its core is about being able to receive, meaning not always doing, but taking in and receiving, being able to be present, being able to pause when you need to, and feel and rest, and also tap into what you desire. I always say femininity at its core helps you connect to your authentic self. Now, there's a lot of research on nervous system regulation, and rightfully so, more people have been talking about it. It is the key to so much work, whether it's trauma work, whether it's creating balance within yourself or in other areas of your life. And a lot of studies show that when the body is in a parasympathetic state, so that is the rest and receive, sometimes it's called the feed and breed, like you're in a state that's not in survival mode. When you're in that state of calm or balance, you're able to be more creative. Your problem solving abilities improve. You can think clearer. You're not just thinking about the immediate thing in front of you, but you can see in a more open way. Your emotional connection deepens to yourself, but also your ability to tap into your emotions and connect to other people. So, the very aspects of femininity that are healthy are actually what we've been taught to avoid in the pursuit of success. It's like compartmentalize, don't worry about your emotions, keep going, keep pushing, don't rest. All of those things in the long run are unhealthy, first of all, but second of all, they don't sustain the success, the very success that we're hoping for. And the femininity, those core qualities of femininity, are actually what supports sustainable success for women. I always tell women ease requires effort. It's the effort you put into resting and taking, it's the effort you put into centering your rest and your well being and balance in your life. Ease is not the absence of success, it's the foundation of sustainable success for women. So we're in a season of a lot of shifts for women. I call it the season of yes. Women are entering this season where yes is no longer about overextending. Yes is actually a demonstration of your boundaries, because in order to say yes to yourself and to the things that are important to you, you have to be able to say no to certain things, right? We have a finite amount of energy, so to speak, in our day to day lives and in our lives in general. So, saying yes to things means that you're saying no to the things that no longer serve you, that aren't contributing to your long term goals. And this is not about selfishness, this is actually alignment. Saying yes Saying yes to yourself is about allowing yourself to rest without feeling guilty about it, without having to over explain. It's about asking for what you need from those around you, no longer keeping it in and feeling resentment and feeling like I'm just going to make them figure it out. We're no longer doing that. That's called passive aggressive. That is not feminine. We are no longer allowing ourselves to push through things. Therefore, we're saying yes to slowing down. Something as simple as walking more slowly when you get out of the car and go into the store. Sometimes you look around. I used to look at myself and say, what am I rushing for? Why? What am I running for? Right? It becomes a habit where everything is a rush, the next thing, and you never have time to pause and slow down. So, in this new season, with this new shift, so many of us are choosing to slow down, and we're choosing to notice what feels good, what's healthy, what makes us happy, and what brings us joy. The other thing that comes along with this shift is a shift in mindset. And when I talk about receiving, and we say this a lot, like Femininity is about receptivity and learning to receive. But what does this really mean? It means that you have to allow yourself to be a little bit more vulnerable because so many of us as women are used to giving. And sometimes we talk about, oh, I'm giving so much, but in a way, it allows us to have more control, which is why so many of us cling to it, even though it might be exhausting us. But receiving, this is where the discomfort shows up because receiving support or receiving love or receiving care, those are parts of feminine energy that a lot of us did not have the opportunity to cultivate. I talk to so many women. Some say they were made to feel like they were less than for asking or needing things. And so they learned to pretend that they didn't need anything. Women say that their needs were never met. So they learned to stop desiring to receive. And they put themselves in the position of doing for others and taking care of others' needs. Some women talk about having grown up in an environment that creates codependency, where in a way you're doing something, you're caring for somebody else or meeting their needs, but that's where you get your sense of self and self esteem. So it can be hard to break away from that. And that's why I say receiving is not as easy as it sounds. We always talk about, oh, I want to receive and I want the soft life. But for so many women, it's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar, and it puts them in a situation or a place of feeling vulnerable. Because if you're receiving, in a way, you're depending on someone else. You're saying, hey, I'm going to put my trust in you, or I'm going to have faith that I'll be okay regardless, right? That's what it says at its core. But it is vulnerable because you have to show that you have needs. You have to show that you're not this independent being that nothing affects you. And for so many of us, our armor, as we've climbed through and achieved and gotten to places of success, has been this idea that we don't need anything. And so that receptivity or that receiving part of feminine energy can be really uncomfortable. And that's okay. If that's where you are, it's okay. It's normal. I always like to normalize things for women because it's like just because you're feeling something that's new and unfamiliar, please know that you're not the only one. Other women have felt that too. Other women, though, have also been able to work through it. So many of the women that I've worked with have been able to get to a place where they're letting go of the control. They're letting go of the need to see themselves through this lens of always giving. It doesn't mean that they're letting go of their humanity or that core part of them that is nurturing, but it does mean that they're getting more comfortable with acknowledging that they need to be given to, they need to receive, they need to receive nurturance themselves. And so, in this shift to embracing our feminine energy and our femininity, many of us are having to go back and ask, what do I want? Because what has happened is that so many of us have stopped asking, what do I want? Many of us started just saying, well, what makes sense? What's practical? What works for everyone else? And we've erased what we desire. And one thing I do know is that desire is a compass. It helps us to see where we are and who we are at this stage in life. If you don't know what you want, you will end up building a life based on what's expected. And I think that is at the heart of so much of, at a certain stage, I say it's usually 35 plus, women start saying, wait a minute, what's going on with me? They start pushing back against narratives that they feel were forced upon them. Many women start feeling like they were sold a bad bill of goods, that they were promised things, that life is not panning out like that. And those are all signs that a person, a woman, has lost touch with her internal compass, what is best for her, what she desires, and what's in her heart. And so many end up resentful because they've built a life based on other people's expectations. Now, I know that this shift into the season of yes and tapping into femininity is not easy because it means you have to undo a lot of conditioning. So many women were told that rest is laziness. And I'm very mindful of this. That's why the other day my daughter said, "Oh, I just laid around all on Saturdays. I just feel so lazy." And I'm like, that is not lazy. That's your body and your mind telling you you need time and space. I don't want them to grow up thinking that they always have to be productive in doing something. Rest is not lazy. Another piece of conditioning that so many of us have to undo is that softness equals weakness. And I tell you all the time, it took me so long to feel okay with the softness of my voice, the softness of my demeanor. That's just who I am and how I've been. But for so long, I was told, girl, toughen up, put some bass in your voice, and you need to, be stronger and all this stuff. And I always knew that internally I had a sense of being grounded and strong within myself and resilient. And so I was like, why do I have to give up the part of me that's very sensitive or the way I speak or whatever? I learned that softness was not weakness, it was actually my superpower. And that's a superpower that so many women have inside, but they've been told to bury it and just like put it to the side. The other piece of conditioning is that needing support means that you're a failure. I cannot tell you, that's what I cannot tell you the number of women that I've seen wait until the 99th hour, until things are at the lowest point, just above finally breaking, to reach out for help and to take off the mask or the facade of having it all together. And there's so many other communities where I see people thriving because they're in community, they're interdependent, they've been socialized and conditioned to see asking for help as a strength. And so, if you've been taught that needing help means you're a failure, that's a mindset that you're going to have to face head on in order to really embrace this season of femininity and season of yes. This conditioning is tied to something that is very common, and it's survival patterns that actually encourage hyper dependence. So many women have had to be in their masculine because that was what they needed to survive. Their early environments were they may have been in environments in their childhood or early in life where survival required them to be strong, outwardly strong and hard. So at first, softness is going to feel foreign. It's actually going to be enforced by a lot of the people in those original environments for them to be hard and harsh and tough. You will see people kind of making fun of you for trying to slow down, telling you, oh, you lost your mojo, you lost, that about you, you're getting lame, don't let others let you get soft. They will push the hustle and grind belief system. And I was actually just a part of an anthology book project where I wrote a book chapter for entrepreneurs and successful women. The book is called Redefining Success Beyond the Grind. And it talks about how so many of us on this journey of success or entrepreneurship, we thought that we had to grind. And it left no room for things like the softness that we desired in our lives, leaving space for healthy relationships, leaving space for a healthy lifestyle. And so, if you were brought up in an environment where you had to be strong, where that was necessary, you are going to have to reframe softness. It's not a weakness, it means that you trust yourself. It means that you are emotionally regulated. It means that you have a grounded presence within your body and just within yourself. So you don't have to flex being hard because you already know that your softness allows you to be strong internally. I need you to understand that hyper independence is often a trauma response. It's not a personality trait, and it's an identity that you can actually shift. When you start to see yourself when you start to see yourself and identify as a woman who values ease, who lives a soft life, who trusts herself, who doesn't need a bunch of chaos to feel stimulated or feel alive, that you can be in your soft woman, feminine era, and that you can still be soft and feminine while being successful. So let's get into the Q&A. We have some great questions here. And don't forget, you can always send me a message on my Instagram if you want me to answer your questions. Question one is, can I be feminine and still be ambitious? Yes, absolutely, you can. Femininity does not remove ambition and desire from your life. It just changes how you pursue it. It changes how you relate to it as part of your it changes how you relate to it in terms of your identity. And it allows you to let go of some of the high achieving parts of yourself that are tied to trauma, right? We talk about hyper independence and being always striving as being a trauma response. Being feminine doesn't remove ambition, it just allows you to lean more into the being and less into the always doing aspects of success. Question two is, what if I'm not used to receiving? Yes, very good question. And this is common, like I said. With everything, you want to start small. Receiving is a muscle that you have to learn to build. So receive a compliment, receive a gift without feeling like you have to feign like, oh no, I can't take it. Receive help from those closest to you who are not going to weaponize it against you. And the more you practice it, the more you build that muscle, the more it will become second nature to you. Question three is, how do I know if I'm in survival mode? And this is really important because I know you may have heard a lot about thriving versus surviving, and you want to know, how do you know if you're actually in survival mode? One question to ask yourself is, do I feel like I always have to be on? Do I feel like it's a struggle to relax without feeling guilty? Am I always getting up and looking for something to do, somewhere to place the energy that I seem to have within my body, where it's hard to relax? These are signs that your nervous system is used to being in survival mode, and you have to find strategies to practice the opposite and be in a mode of where you have to practice strategies where you need strategies to practice the opposite, which is to be in a state of ease and balance and well-being. I love those questions. Thanks for sending them. They help us all to see that there's small ways that we can start to make that shift from being in masculine mode energy to in feminine energy and embracing our femininity. This is what I hope you take from this episode. No matter where you are in life, you don't have to abandon success. If you've already achieved all the statuses and the positions that you want, you don't have to abandon that. If you're striving for certain positions and statuses in life, you don't have to abandon that. But you may need to redefine the overall approach to success and what it looks like for you. Because any success that requires you to disconnect from yourself is not sustainable over the long term. I need you to understand that success that disconnects you from yourself, from your body, how you're doing physically, from your needs, from your emotions, from your desires, that is not sustainable and it's not fulfilling. It's just checking off check boxes to look good, but it doesn't allow you to feel good. Sis, if you're ready to step into a life where you do feel more connected, where you do feel more aligned, where you do feel more supported, this is exactly the life. This is exactly the work we do inside the Boundaries to Bliss Society, my inner circle membership. We help women move from burnout and doing too much or over functioning into a space of more softness, of being more clear with what they want and feeling more fulfilled inside. You can learn more about the Boundaries to Bliss Society at the link in the show notes. Finally, I want you to know that this can be and that this is your season of yes. Not yes to everything, but yes to yourself. If you fully open yourself up to it, if you embrace it, it can do wonders for how you feel now and where you end up. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment, leave us a review. It really helps. I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. And as always, stay soft, stay clear, and stay feminine. I'm Dr. Nicole.